Well, if it's okay, if I can just piggyback on to so you got Fido back there?
I think I locked one of my dogs outside. Give me 1 second. It's 100 degrees out there. Everybody, my name is Vitali. This is the BallNine Roundhouse, and we have a lot to talk about this week. So let me go around and introduce everybody. We have Kevin Kernan, of course, AMBS. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. It's it's been a little sunny here in Florida, so I'm going shades all the time now.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It's always sunny in St. Augustine. It's beautiful until it's not. We also taking a couple minutes from broadcasting the College World Series on ESPN from his home studio furnished by ESPN. Wes Clements, everybody. Welcome back. Wes, how's it going?
It's going good when you wake up. That's my kind of mantra. You wake up, and it's a good day. And by the way, Kev, we got beaches here about a half a mile away from where I'm at, and the sun comes up here too. Just a different state.
A good 10 years I spent out there, but I'll take right now, considering everything, I'll take Florida.
And also in California, not too far from a beach, we have our ombudsman, Mr. Rocco Constantino, fresh off a trip to Petco Park last night. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Watched the ground mow through those Padres, and I don't have a home studio like Wes, but I'm coming to you live from a Holiday Inn in Anaheim, so talk some baseball.
Perfect.
You'll be smart.
Oh, God. So, Kevin, last week, your column, June 2021, seemed to have struck some nerves. A lot of nerves. You have the nerds in a lather.
Always a good thing.
Deservedly so. That's always a good thing. And I'm curious as to, the reaction to that, what you're seeing to that, and do you think maybe this is starting to come to a head and people are finally starting to realize that this is a horseshit product that we're seeing?
Yeah, I think it's finally coming around. It's going to take a while. It still may not get there. But I wrote about the unwatchables 2 weeks ago for BallNine, and where I just addressed all the issues. And again, I'm talking to baseball people. I know the game and nailed it across the board. All of a sudden, I started getting texts from baseball people, emails, calls, and I got at least 100. And then, so I took some of those comments. Of course, some of the guys still have jobs and they don't want to be on the record. So I took those comments, what these guys are really feeling, and put that up in June 2021, because I just read the book October 1964. And the game was so great. Lou Brock comes to the Cardinals. He's able to steal bases. He changes the whole team. It's a speed game. It's a defense game. The Yankee defense was starting to fall apart. The Yankees were actually becoming one of those slow-footed, power nerd teams way before they were nerds. So I followed that all up. Some of these comments, and like a little thing, like everybody can read the column. But one point was I asked one manager when he knew it was bad, and he said he knew it was bad when he was looking at the scoreboard before a game, and they had all the stats up, and they had different stats up, and he said, hey, he asked the PR people, or he asked a nerd, actually, there was a nerd down there, and he said, hey, what's going on here? How come we don't have the RBIs up there and stuff like that, And the nerd in charge, NIC as I call him, said RBIs are arbitrary. Could you imagine if you said that to Frank Robinson, way back when? He'd punch you in the face. RBIs are not arbitrary. They are what the game is all about. If you can knock in runs, you're a player. And I saw all the great players going all the way back to about 1960. So, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, all these guys knocked it in runs. So we're run, baseball, I say we because I've been in the game so long, we're run by a bunch of guys who have no clue about the game. They want to be elite Ivy League guys. They have power over the owners. They have sold a bill of garbage, and everybody brought it. And now we see where baseball's at. It stinks. It stinks. Some of the teams are coming around a little bit. Chris Bryant lowered his launch angle. All of a sudden, he's hitting 342 since he did that. The smart teams are hitting the ball the other way. Even last night with Rocco's game, I watched the highlights. The only at bat I saw that was competitive was Tatis, who now keeps two hands on the bat, by the way, because he hurt his shoulder. He wouldn't be having the year he's having right now if he still looks healthy. But he takes the ball the other way against DeGrom, who DeGrom paints the outside corner. But the players have never been dumber. They're so dumb. Machado struck out like 3 times, same pitch every time. And I go back to what I've always said, and I'll leave it here. DeGrom and I had a conversation about 4 years ago, and he told me, he said, Kevin, the more launch angle, the higher I'm going. Well, he's also figured out since then, because he's a lot smarter as a pitcher than these guys, or hitters. He's also figured out the greatest pitch of all time, which Tom Glavine told me many years ago. And Wes knows this for sure, being a hitter. It's that low outside fastball in the outer, well, you can't reach. Basically, it's in the corner, unless you're on top of the plate. Do any of these guys, other than maybe a Rizzo here and there, get on top of the plate? So DeGrom has taken the launch angle, and he's taken the fact they can't get to the outside pitch, and they're still trying to pull that pitch, and he is going through them like a knife through butter, and it's not going to change because, as I just said, ball players have never been dumber.
You definitely did say that, but yeah, I mean I completely agree with you about DeGrom and how he goes after them. It just exposes that approach. Now, Wes, as a hitter, what are you seeing that these guys with their at-bats, they're just non-competitive half the time?
Well, here's what I would say is that, I was thinking about this last week because if you just want to see where we're at, just take a look at the Seattle Mariners batting averages, straight up and down. Okay, and I'm sitting there looking at some hitters, and I'm thinking, I wonder if people that are out there watching the game just think that these guys can't hit. They just have no talent. That's not the case at all. These guys that are hitting $2 and $180, they could be hitting 250 to 300 if the right coaching was in there, if their hitting computer was being given the right information on how to attack pitchers now. And again, how to attack a pitcher now versus 10 years ago is no different. There's no difference because every pitcher is different. Every pitcher is unique. Every pitcher has their own go-to pitch. And it's about studying these pitchers and who you're combating and who you're battling against. It's no different. I can simplify it to, remember when you were younger and you played with your buddy, you played wiffle ball, right? And he kept throwing a curveball sideways, underhand, and you kept missing it. And then all of a sudden you said, is he going to keep doing that? Well, if he's going to keep doing that, what'd you do? You actually looked for that stupid thing, and then you whacked it somewhere. And that is hitting. I mean, that is the essence of pitching and hitting is pitcher's job is to get the hitter's timing up. Hitting is all about timing. That's it. You got a catcher sitting behind you. A pitcher throws a baseball. If you're a right-hand hitter, the ball goes to the right of you, and it's always going to be to the right of you if you're a right-hand hitter. If you're a left-hand hitter, it's going to be the left of you all the time. Where hitting gets messed up nowadays and forever has been the timing. Hitters forget that the ball is being thrown behind them to the catcher, and therefore they don't have a timing mechanism to understand when that ball is released from the pitcher's hand, it's going to the dude that's sitting behind them. And that's why you'll see so many curveballs that are swung in and missed a foot out in front of the plate, they'll miss them by 3-4 feet. Now, think about that. If I told you the hitter, if I had a little, well, this could happen, a device in his ear eventually, tell him what to do when he's in the midstream of a pitch. But if I was able to talk to a hitter, I'd say, don't forget this curveball is being thrown to the catcher behind you. And if you understand that, remember Barry Bonds he said he liked to catch the baseball with the bat. Remember he said he likes to put a glove, right, and catch the baseball when it's to the left of him. Same theory. It's the same mentality. But getting back to my initial point, these hitters have the ability to be as good as any in previous eras. They do. Baseball players are baseball players. They're not going to change their abilities are not going to change. Yeah. What the information and how they're being told to play this baseball game now is why we see what we see. It's futility on many levels. But these guys have the ability to hit. I think it'd be tremendous if you just cleaned house right now of every baseball hitting coach in the game with the exception of the very few that actually played the game, you would see a marked difference before the end of the year. This year, if you just cleaned it today, you would see a difference in a hurry, because it's not hard to teach hitting, especially now, because the hitting is not being taught. Angles are being taught now. This is a science class that's being taught to these hitters. The actual game, the gamesmanship between hitters and pitchers, there is none. Very few. I mean, Miggy's still in the game. Watch Miguel Cabrera. If you could only get a computer, if we could analyze his brain and then print it in words as he was in the box, that would be amazing if we could do that, because the stuff that he's thinking about is what made him a Hall of Famer. I truly believe it's not, again, I'll continue to say it, it's not the player's fault now, in my opinion. Because, I mean, we're getting close. I mean, we're hearing rumblings about players that don't even want analysts near them. And these analysts for their club, and I'm not going to go into names, but these analysts played the damn game. They played the damn game. Never in the history of our game have we ever had current players want to reject people who played the game before them. But now that's what we have. And it's just, we've got to catch these hitters. And this generation of baseball players, we got to catch them now before it gets to a point to where baseball players are no longer welcome in baseball.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And it's almost like a brainwashing technique. I mean, it's like these players are almost getting brainwashed into.
Well, but take a look at the environment that we're.
That's true.
Right there.
That's true. I mean, it's all over the place, but it just sucks to see it leaking into baseball. That's for sure. And, Rocco, I mean, you were at a game last night, pitching matchup, great pitching matchup, Musgrove versus DeGrom. So now that brings me to another point that this week, all of a sudden they're going to crack down on this sticky stuff, which we all know everybody's using. And is that, in your mind, is that what's also affecting hitting, or are the hitters is it a combination of the two, that the guys are, they just can't hit and the spin rate? What do you think?
It's probably a combination. If the spin rate is really jumping that much because of the foreign substance, it's only going to have, that kind of effect on the hitters who already don't look like they have the right approach up at bat. But we'll see, I guess. You compare the data of these pitchers pretty openly use it. I mean, I was watching the first Mets game. Darvish was going to his glove in the same spot pretty frequently. Nobody's saying anything about that just yet. So I don't know. There's got to be some study done about what that effect really is in using that concoction that they're using, as opposed to throwing that ball dry. So I'd like to see any information on that. But you could see it. I mean, some of these pitches, the balls are moving like like wiffle balls. And I forget who did the quote. I'll have to unbud myself on that one. But somebody said, when they were hitting superhuman home runs, 500 something feet, people started saying, well, something's up here because this is not within the realm of, human ability. And they say now it's the same thing going on with these spin rates. Those are not spin rates that humans should be able to throw under normal circumstances. You need some kind of help with that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. They seem like they're going after some of these minor leaguers first with it. I think one or two got in trouble this week. But it'll be interesting to see when they finally crack down on a major league pitcher, if they do.
Yeah, I mean, it will be. I mean, I think they said they were going to check them up to 8 times a game. They were going to check the balls now or something like that going forward. And like as a player exits, they'll check for it. And I don't know. It's just it's weird to me. Bring back the spitter. That's all.
Right.
Bring back Gaylord Perry and the Vaseline and the KY ball, and let's just make it fun. Kevin, what's your thought on this with the sticky stuff and how it affects batters and how pitchers are able to go after batters a little differently, perhaps with this concoction?
No, there's no doubt that they're using it, and it's like everything else in baseball. It goes over the top. You keep going until you get caught. And the pitchers, I like it every once in a while. You'll see, matter of fact, I saw it a few weeks ago. I was watching a Mets game. And every once in a while, the camera will pan to the bullpen or something. and the announcers won't really know what's going on because the cameras, or maybe they're doing it from home or whatever. But I saw, it was funny. I saw one of the Mets relievers for me. They were talking about him stretching it, but he's not really stretching. He was like, he had about 3 concoctions in front of him, putting all over his glove and spraying. You know, he was loading up. They all load up now. And look at Garrett Cole's last start. Suddenly he didn't have the spin rate he's been having for the last couple of years because he knew the spin rate police were coming. And I think it is too much. I think it's it's too much of an advantage for the pitcher. And the BS about, well, we have to have this to control, so we're not hitting batters. Well, tell that to Kevin Pillar. These guys don't have command anymore. So when you get in the box now, I think it's even harder because you can't trust these guys because half of them don't know what the hell they're doing with the ball. And the combination too, if you look at ERAs, like why do we got to move the pitching mound back like Theo wants to do? When if you look at the ERAs, a lot of them are still way, way high. Now there are some great pitchers. There's dominance, there's no hitters, but there's still, you're still seeing some crazy games, a lot of runs scored. So it's like anything else, it has to be brought back under control. Baseball has let everything get out of control, and lo and behold, how did it all happen? Well, you know how it happened. You suddenly took all the power away from the umpires. The umpires have no power now. And so these things are just going on. They're just collecting a check for the most part, doing the best they can. And, since we've last been on the air, I've been to a couple minor league games with the automatic strike zone, the automatic ball and strike, ABS they call it. It's terrible. It's terrible. Scouts have told me, I talked to about 7 or 8 scouts at the game. They said on average, they miss 30 pitches a game, 30. So when we get to that and there's a delay and the umpire just sits there and really then somebody talks in his ear or beeps. He has an iPhone strapped across his back. That's how it works. He's got an AirPod in one ear, and it's the ruination of the game under Manfred. And until we get back to baseball being baseball, we're going to have these problems. And to me, that's the essential issue. It's one last point on the scouts. One of the scouts, they were sitting, about 6 veteran scouts were all sitting together, and one of the scouts said, "Isn't it great that Theo is going to save us?" And within about 30 seconds, 3 seconds. All the other scouts basically said "F you" to the scout because they knew he was just stirring it up. But this whole joke about moving the mountain, moving it back a foot or whatever they're going to do, no, just let them play baseball. Let the hitters hit and get away from so much launch angle. And the other thing I want to say, and unfortunately, the broadcasters are caught between a rock and a hard place. You can't watch a game anymore without a story. You can't hear the stories anymore that we used to, like for example, the story I wrote today about Yogi Berra being on a submarine base and his relationship with Jim Gleason and what happened with that relationship. And the great Jim Gleason's son told me his dad never talked about the game too much because it was that Greatest Generation thing. But he said, "Dad, do you remember your first hit?" He goes, "Sure, like it was yesterday." And the kid had to pull it out of him and said, "Well, what was it, Dad?" He goes, "Well, it was 3 strikes. I was out. It was a Hall of Fame pitcher, and he said, but then what about your first at bat?" And that was my first at bat. "What about your first hit?" He goes, "Oh yeah, triple next at bat against the son of a bitch." So it was Lefty Grove. So those are great stories that we grew up hearing on baseball games. All we hear now, and I watched the game last night, it was driving me insane. The color analysts now on a lot of these games, they think their job is to predict the next pitch. That's all they talk about. What the next pitch is going to be. Here's why it's going to be that pitch. It should have been that pitch. No color about the game, what's happening anymore. So I blame those guys for as much as giving in as the players for giving in. They've all given in to the nerds and tried. You can't please nerds. It's really that simple. That's why I wear them. That's why I wear this shirt. I learned a long time ago, you can't please them. They will always want more. They always want more power. They'll always want more information. Look at the Yankees. Is there a better example? Since Gene Michael passed. Gene Michael was the guy in Brian Cashman's ear that still talked baseball. Once Gene Michael passed, that guy was gone. And Cashman's been on this nerd run ever since, pushing up nerds, ignoring his baseball people. Yankees have the worst batting average right now this far into the season since 1968 when they were all-time low.
Oh.
I don't even have to say it because, you know, what you're saying says it all. You know, it's just watching a Yankee game, watching them compete. How do you build a Yankee team where you have no left-handed power in Yankee Stadium? It's a joke. And these guys keep getting jobs. And Wes just mentioned the Mariners, Jerry DiPoto. In my article that I did, I had at least 10, 15 baseball people say, hey, what about Jerry DiPoto? How does he keep his job? And I agree with that, too. How did these guys keep their jobs? You know, year after year, the guy with the Orioles system is a joke. The Diamondbacks are a joke. There's so many bad teams now. It's not just about being under 500, but it's about being way under 500. Yeah. So until somebody comes in and really sweeps with a broom, and I'm predicting one team will. I have a theory. I have a feeling that one team is going to change very soon. And if that team changes and has success, then you're going to see it's a copycat league. You'll see other teams follow the baseball model. If you don't teach baseball, you're not going to win baseball games.
Howdy, men. Joe Blow from Mudville here on the sunny, hot East. And you know what's got me hot? I mean, scorching hot. This friggin' analytics crap. I've had it. I'm done. What's the exit velocity on a pop-up to second? Nobody cares. What's the launch angle on a ground ball to third? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Get the nerds out of the books. Give them a bat, ball, and glove. Go out in the field. Play baseball. Score runs. That's how you win. Move runners around. Play baseball. This is driving me crazy. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I'm going to tell you, the people from Mudville, we don't do analytics. We do baseball. Have a great day. Bye.
But I just wanted to piggyback on what the stuff that Kevin was talking about.
Sure.
Because this is what our brains, I think we all do. We think every day about how we could fix the game, right? Because we want to fix it because we love it so much. And we get attacked all the time, and we are called either old, hateful, dumb, looking at the clouds people, get off my lawns people, everything, all these kind of things. And here's what I would say. We were raised, all of us, to when you see something wrong, you say something. Yeah. You don't let your kids, if you had kids, if they're starting fires in the backyard, you don't just look at them and say, okay, not a problem. You say something. And I equate what the owners have done in MLB to putting your 10-year-olds, two 10-year-olds in charge of the household for an entire month, including your bills and everything, and putting in charge your 10-year-olds. What do you think's going to happen? They don't know anything about that, and nor do any of these front offices know anything about what they're being put in charge of. And what else do you expect than what we have? I blame this, and I know, Kev, you kind of disagree a little bit in this, but I blame this solely on the owners. The owners are the ones who have let our game go to hell. They are the ones who have watched it and maybe not even watched it, which is another problem. Because we used to have owners that actually loved the game. I don't know how many owners actually love baseball. I really don't. It's an asset now. It's $1 billion asset. And so I blame all this on the owners. And I truly believe, like Kev says, he says, well, he thinks an organization is just going to clean house and go back to old school, what would be called old school baseball. I don't call it old school. I call it real baseball. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. But an owner could fix, one owner, like Kev said, could fix this, all of it, could fix it all. Because the baseball mainstream media they've sold out completely. You're not going to get any help from them. I mean, Kevin is one of how many else other than you, Kev, are telling the truth?
I'm pretty much on an island.
Right. And so, it's, in my opinion, we've just got to find a couple, 2, 3 owners who actually care about the product. Their money is not going to change. The value of their organization is not going to change. We just got to find a few owners that actually care and love the game. And then once we do that, then those 2 or 3 organizations will go back to playing the game of baseball the way it's supposed to be. Then at that point in time, we will see the exposure of how many organizations are doing it wrong. But we can't, nobody will be able to see it until 1 or 2 or 3 organizations flip the script.
Let me interject one thing here, because I do agree with you about the owners. And I think there's a team that's close to doing that. And a lot of you guys may disagree with me here, but I actually believe the Rays right now are the closest to an old school baseball team, simply because they still let their development people develop. That's the secret to the Rays' success. The development people develop. Now, maybe the nerds may throw some numbers at them and they may acquire a guy here and there and they say he could do this better. It's like when they stuck it, and Kevin Cash loves to stick it to the Yankees. I love to see that. And he brought Ferlingheiser in the other day, game, ex-Yankee. They love to do that. But I thought about this when I was talking to a Rays owner 2 years ago in the training in the playoffs, and I said to him, "Hey, you're going to lose Heim Bloom and you're going to lose some other people. It looks like this year. How much is that going to affect you?" And he laughed and said, "Kevin, it's not going to affect us at all." I said, "Why not?" He goes, "Because we'll just hire 2 more Google boys. We'll hire 2 more Google boys, and we still have our development people." So I think, this is my theory, and this is where I'm a little different. I'm out there a little bit sometimes. I think the Rays have done a great pump fake on everybody, and they got everybody believing it's all analytics, where analytics plays a role. I'm not that far away from it, where I don't mind a little role for analytics. But the truth is they still have the same development people that develop these players. And you get a guy like Kiermaier who cares about the game. They get more players who actually care about the game than the other team. It's not just talent. You watch the Rays play the Yankees and you can see it. You can see it.
Oh,
and
I saw it.
So again, I think your point is right on, Wes, about the owners. They love numbers. They love analytics. They need to love baseball.
Yeah, it's just simple to me. They have to care about the product, and they don't. And it's obvious they don't. I was hoping Steve Cohen did. I don't know him. Don't know.
Well, he came this close. He came this close to hiring Jared Porter. He hired Jared Porter. You know, the guy that had, was the big guy over at the Diamondbacks who are doing so well. I think they've lost twice as many games as they won this year. Yeah. So he dodged the bullet there.
The Diamondbacks are 20-40, so they absolutely have. Now, Rocco, talking about the product and on the field, I mean, I'm looking at the standings now, and we were mentioning earlier, the NL East, the Mets are the only team over 500 at 549. I mean, it's not like they're, playing 750 baseball or anything, but 549, only team over 500 in the NL East. So, with a watered down product like that, and with all the analytic stuff that's scaring people away, you mentioned something the other day to me that I thought was great. That was, and that is when you alienate the older fans and older players. I mean, baseball is a sport that's passed down, and that's how you get the diehard fan. This is your words. That's how diehard fans are created, passed down from generations, family, and if you alienate the older fans and they're like, well, this is what the hell is this that I'm watching? I'm not gonna do. I mean, what does that say for the state of the game? I mean, what needs to happen to get that back?
Yeah, and kind of what I meant along those lines, that's my experience. I think that's a lot of our experience. I learned baseball from my dad and his twin brother, my uncle, the Duke.
Yeah,
they were born and they grew up watching baseball in the 30s and 40s. And then every night when I'm growing up, I'm sitting in the living room. We got the Yankees or Mets game on. They're telling stories about Joe DiMaggio, Phil Rizzuto's telling stories about God knows what. And it's like Kevin said with the announcer, that's how young kids fall in love with baseball, become lifelong fans, and what the product on the field and what's happening now, it's alienating the people now that are, our age, that have younger kids that aren't going to sit there and watch baseball every single night with their kids. They'll teach them, maybe they'll talk to, take them to a game here and there, and hopefully they're out playing Little League or something. But it's not that, they're not going to be, dyed in the wool fans like the way we were grow up, pretty much immersed in the game. So that's what I see there. And it all goes back to the product on the field, which, is awful. Looking at stats, the run scored is this year, run scored is similar than it has been in the past. It's not much different. It's not like runs aren't being scored. It's pretty average. But the means to get those runs, and just the boring status of the gameplay, I think is what's turning people off. And it's frustrating. We watch games. We try to watch games to have fun and enjoy and watch baseball. Not sit there and pissed off for 3 hours about how stupid it is.
Exactly. I mean, and also, I mean, like you said, I mean, if you're a kid and you're watching a game, with your family, you're a kid, you're watching the game, you want an escape. You don't want to sit there and have to think about what you learned in algebra today just to figure out what the hell's going on in the game. Mm-hmm. You just want to watch baseball and enjoy it. It's an escape. It's a sport. I don't want to sit there and have to think. You don't want to. You don't need to be Stephen J. Hawking to figure out what the hell some of these stats are that are going on, and need one of those little computers that he would speak into. It's freaking mind-numbing.
Along those lines, I was watching the Yankee game the other day, and they had Verdugo mic'd up.
Oh, that was yesterday. That was great.
Yeah, and Verdugo is a character, which is nice, and I'm really amazed they let this one stand and go out to the public. But DJ LeMahieu singles through the hole. There's no second baseman. The second baseman, an alien, one of the UFOs came down and took away the second baseman.
Just gone. I know.
He was gone. We don't know what happened to him. So LeMahieu gets jammed, punches the ball to there. There's no second baseman, dribbles in the right field, and they actually have tape of Verdugo saying, "What are we doing? Shifting on LeMahieu. What are we doing?" So that gets back to Wes's point earlier about the players know. And what Rocco just said, and Mets fans, by the way, I think are the closest to still fans who really, and Padre fans. I think it was good that he went to that game, because I believe Padre fans and Mets fans right now are the closest to real fans that we saw growing up, because they really love their teams in a lot of ways. And so there's a lot going out there with that. We just got to understand that the players don't want this either. It's being forced down their throats. And why won't hitters take advantage of this? One quick story, and I'll move on. I was talking to scouts, other scouts the other day. They were at a Trenton game, okay? Lower minors. They played Reading. I think it was Reading they played. Whoever Reading, whatever league Reading's in. Reading is like 4-15. And imagine this, Wes. Late in the game, tie score. There's a guy on second base. It wasn't the free runner. It was actually a guy who got to second base. The number 8 hitter comes up, a little guy, little second baseman hitting about 150. And he takes 3 mighty cuts, strikes out on 3 pitches. And you know why he does that? Because the development people are telling him to take your best swing.
Right.
So he's not even thinking, move the guy over, let's win the game. So they're not even teaching. This is my problem with baseball most of all. They're not teaching in the minor leagues how you win a game, how you get those runs, like Wes was saying, how the runs are created. And so you're creating a generation of players who think it's okay to take 3 swings. I stink. I can't hit the ball, but I'm going to take 3 mighty swings, And that same philosophy is going to go up to the major leagues. And he asked for the NL East. I can boil it down to you in a second. Matt Klentak, Philadelphia, ruined that organization. Ruined it. And Dombrowski came in. A lot of Klentak's people are still in charge of development and some other things. They're continue to ruin it. It's horrible. Look at some of their minor leagues. The Nationals, Rizzo's a good GM, but the owners demanded that he get rid of scouts and cut people. That killed the Nationals. That's why they went down south. And the Braves suddenly think they're the Dodgers. They got into all this, look at me stuff, and they forgot about baseball. and they let the players kind of like just shoot for the moon all the time. Freddie Freeman lost his confidence, and by the way, might be a Yankee. If I were Hal Steinberg, I'd think about signing Freddie Freeman left-handed bat. That might work, and that would be the beauty of what we could talk about. If baseball was back to being baseball, we could actually talk about some cool baseball things, instead of this stuff.
As infantile as this sounds, I just wonder what would happen if you put a clubhouse, a major league clubhouse, players in a classroom and a chalkboard and said, just ask them, give me 8 different ways we could score a run in one inning. What answer?
They don't even know that. They don't even know how you step on first on a force play.
Yeah, but
stop a run from scoring like the Pirates. That's what I say. Players have never been dumber.
Yeah, but again, everything I know about the game, I was taught, and I will defend this current generation of players for they're not being taught what we were taught, and they're not being taught how to take advantage of their skill sets. They're not being taught all the myriad of ways that you can score runs. They're not being fed their computers with, think about if we just scored 1 run a game, because 1 run an inning.
Sure.
That's the mentality that we always had. Hey, just think about this. If you could score 1 run an inning, 9 runs, pretty good. Well, now they go, well, that's probably impossible. Maybe, but now how about we do it 5 times? Now we got 5 runs on the board. Runner at second and no outs. It used to be a taught mindset. You're going to look at your third base coach. He's going to tell you one thing, and it doesn't matter that the opponent knows. This is the beauty about this game. Think about this. Third base coach, you come up, a hitter comes up, runner on second base, no outs. You look down at third base coach, and if he pointed to his finger that way, in other words, the other way, that means move him, right? Or he could just go, that guy, get him here, no matter how it is. It doesn't matter that your opponent knows. They should know if you're thinking along with this great game we have. So the catcher should know. The pitcher should know. So what happens? The adjustment is the pitcher knows, hitter's trying to move him, so a catcher is going to throw in, okay? That's just an instinct. That is a normal thing, because if you're throwing in on a guy that wants to move the ball, hit the ball the other way, technically it should make it harder. But now here comes the game within the game. Hitters would back off the plate. So if they're thinking, so now the hitter backs off the plate, it makes what? That ball that's in middle, and now everything else is gravy to hit the other way. So that was just a mentality. I would venture to guess today when that happens, very rarely is that ever even a thought in these players and hitters' minds. Again, not their fault. Not their fault. It's what they're not being told.
Yeah.
Their skill sets are not being utilized. We're never going to know how good these players are if it continues to be under these regimes. No way. No chance.
I agree with you. I'm waiting for the first guy that I see to get hit kind of in the nuts while he's too busy doing this and not paying attention to the ball coming into him. But Andy,
it's a friend of mine. A friend of mine sent me a note this morning about just along those lines. He says he can't wait for the first balk when a guy stops his windup in the middle of the balk to look at his cheat card. And that day is coming, because if you watched the Giants game yesterday,
I know.
Longoria and Crawford collided when Longoria was playing some kind of crazy shift and Crawford was over here and full speed. And Longoria I think he had to leave the game. So these things, like if you had, this would be an all-time blooper on the great blooper reels, and that we used to love going up. One other thought, before it escapes my head, I want to mention it because I wrote it down as a note. This is how dumb baseball is. DeGrom is facing Tatis and the Padres. Couldn't ask for a better matchup. When we grew up, that would be your Saturday afternoon game, and we might actually stay home and watch that or work our day around that, just like the NFL game. Baseball is so dumb. They put that game on, on a West Coast time where all the people in the East are sleeping pretty much. You don't see that great matchup. They don't even know how to market the game. They can't do anything right. Nothing. When you start to get to that mindset where I'm at, it all makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, can I just say something? I don't want to. I got like 10 minutes before I got to get on.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to go around and do a final thought thing.
No. I just want to say one thing. When you get a chance, I'm going to tell you guys, just watch any college game being played today. I'm going to tell you, just watch one little thing.
I'm planning on it.
No, just watch one little thing that you're probably not going to recognize that isn't happening during this broadcast. But now, and here's what it is. There's no K zone in college baseball. And I will tell, I've said this a million times to producers, but I got to kind of whisper, right? That the K zone is horrible, a visual for a Major League Baseball game, in my opinion. If you want to bring it up on a strike 3 call, yes, bring it up.
Yeah.
But to watch it all the time, that is a beautiful picture that we're looking at that we don't get to see anymore because there's a big box. There's a big box. So the viewing, when you're watching a game, you just want to see that picture. You don't want a box in it. I mean, if you had a great picture on your wall, would you put a box in it? That box does nothing. It's a detriment to the game. And the only thing that box can do is make fans hate umpires. That's it. That's all it can do. It can only, all that does right there is just trying to blame umpires.
Yeah. You're
That's
right.
it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You just take it away. Use it, right?
Yeah. I can't stand it, personally. I can't stand it. Rocco, I'm going to start with you. Last thought.
I'll keep it short. I just like that I'm seeing more and more players, former players, and baseball people speak up against what's going on in the sport. Wade Boggs has now, been speaking up a lot. Of course, Don Mattingly, too. We saw that. Scott Bradley's awesome on Twitter. He's great if you follow him. So a lot more people are trying to speak up against what's going on. I think that's what's going to one of the things that's going to steer things in the right way.
Love it. Now, Wes, I know you have some College World Series games to do. What's your final thought to leave on?
I'm just going to continue. Owners. Kev, you've got to, listen, we got literally one of the best all-time baseball writers ever. And Kevin with us on this cast. Kevin, you just get some owners. Stock them if you have to. Talk to them, ask them why they're not caring about the game. Are they aware of what's going on? We've got to get owners. We can talk about who's in the front offices until we're blue in the face. But until we get the owners to see, to care about the product, about all of the things that all of us care about, and all of the things that the previous century of players care about, it doesn't matter. Nothing will ever change. This is owners, and we've got to get them. And I'd love for Kevin to be able to track down 5 and just talk to them and say, are you aware of what's going on with the game of baseball? And if we can do that, I think we got a chance. I don't think it's just going to happen. And all of a sudden we're just, Theo Epstein is the part of the problem, but yet he's going to fix it. That's the mentality of 2021, right? That's where we're at. What, are you kidding me? And the last thing I'll tell you, Tony Clark, he's got to start caring. He's as much to blame as anybody. Tony Clark is sitting in there watching this. He's got peers that are probably telling him, what are you doing? But he's not doing anything about it either. So, again.
I agree with you.
I can't wait to Kevin to track down some owners, give him some time. And when that happens, maybe we'll start getting some wake-up calls.
All right. And, Kevin, going to you, I'm going to use your now classic line that MLB is into Thelma and Louise. era of the game, and Rob Manfred and Tony Clark are driving the car off the cliff. So, Kevin, I'm going to go to you for your final thought here.
Yeah, and then the owners were in the trunk. I was told by someone in the know that one owner is specifically reading our columns over at BallNine, so that's a good sign, and we'll see where that goes. As for the most obvious owner, Hal Steinbrenner, the Yankees have not, they're like 0-16 when the other team scores 5 runs. What does that tell you? So the owners have let everything go to hell, and I'm not just talking about the game. I'm talking about injuries. Look at injuries. Remember they were going to fix all the injuries? I remember standing with Sandy Alderson about 5 years ago in the Mets clubhouse saying, we're going to investigate these Tommy Johns and we're going to come up with a solution. Yeah, okay. No solution. They just throw harder, more driveline stuff. Pitchers run out of gas quicker. They can't maintain their velocity. And they're trying to tell us that the game is better. That's why DeGrom is so good. He reads swings, getting back to some basics. The one other basic thing I want to bring up is, and this sounds silly, but again, I want to attack all the issues that should be attacked. The baseball players don't even know how to run anymore. And it really hit me when I saw the piece we did, and Chris had put a picture of Lou Brock running. And Lou Brock was running on an angle forward. And I talked to my man, Sal Marinello, and he has told me for a while now that the baseball players can't run. And they all run flat-footed because they don't run anymore. So as simple as it sounds, if I were putting in the charge tomorrow of a baseball team, the first thing I would do is teach them how to run again using the front of their foot and pushing down into the ground. They don't do that. Conforto got hurt pulling a muscle, running to first base. He was so flat-footed, it was a joke. And again, but this gets back to what Wes was saying with owners, because owners have now, one of the other guys that reached out to me last week said, I had to get out of the game when I was in the dugout and I'm tripping over nutritionists and this person and that person, and they don't make anybody better. So all they do is screw up the game, make it worse, get back to some basics. Let's start with running. Let's start with bringing speed back in the game. And let's start teaching in the minor leagues how to score that 1 run per inning. Jack McKeon, I'll leave it here. Jack McKeon always says, especially when he got to the playoffs, he said, if I score, I'll do whatever I have to do to get that first run or the next run. If I score 1 run, you got to score 2. That whole mentality is gone. And until that mentality comes back, baseball will be where it's at. If baseball doesn't fix it, then I'm all for starting a new league called the Real Baseball League, RBL, and just play baseball. And they may not be the most talented players, but I'll go watch them play.
I love it. I love it. So we are now at the end of our show where Rocco Constantino is going to tell us what we botched, if anything. I'm sure I screwed something up. So, Rocco, take it away.
A couple quick ones. Reading is in the AA Northeast now. That's where they're located.
They were playing. Yep. Good.
Yep. For the Phillies. This article I referenced was in this week's Sports Illustrated, comparing how we're ignoring spin rate to the way steroids was ignored until it all reached a head. Kevin was right, calling the Yankees the slowest team in baseball. They're dead last in stolen bases, probably first in bonehead base running mistakes. Wes mentioned the Mariners, their team batting average is 206, beyond brutal. Wes also mentioned about pitching and timing and hitting and all that, which was the great quote, simple quote from the great Warren Spahn. Hitting is timing, pitching is upsetting timing. We could leave it on that.
Wow.
Nice.
Can I just add one little thing to here?
Sure.
You know, all someone would have to do is go in the archive and watch the Pittsburgh Pirates first baseman a couple of weeks ago run after a guy that hit the ball, ran down the first base line, and decided to run backwards toward home plate. He caught the ball 10 feet from first base, and instead of turning around,
Two steps.
with just, keep in mind, there's 2 outs, okay? And 2 outs and a runner at second. Instead of just turning around and walking 10 feet, literally, he could walk backwards to have the runner, who is actually 15 feet away from him, going back towards home. He could just touch the bag. Innings over. He decides to lazily jog like it's a softball game on the 4th of July towards who was it, Baez?
Yes.
Towards Javi Baez. He runs towards him, and then, oh yeah, that runner at second. This is how slow you were running towards Baez. The runner towards second is now just scored. And then you flip the ball over your catcher's head. I mean, that kind of is where we're at.
Well, and also, Wes, all the catcher had to do was throw it to first base. And he still would have been out, and the run wouldn't have counted. But the second baseman was in a shift way over at shortstop.
Yeah.
This is the play. When you talk about the owners, hopefully Chris can get this to the owners, this whole show. And this play shows where baseball is at. And the guy running him back also kept the ball in his glove. So that's the number one thing wrong. In a rundown, you always want to be here, of course. Show the ball. And then the worst thing in my book, because I'm part of the media, I had to read the next day how Javi Baez was such a smart base runner.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He didn't hustle. He made 3 mistakes. He didn't hustle. He went backwards, and the other guy could just walk out. He wasn't smart. So if you're writing that, you better look at who you are as a writer and say, I don't know diddly squat about baseball.
I couldn't agree with you more. And my favorite thing was somebody sped it up, put the Benny Hill theme behind it. It was the most fitting thing I've ever seen.
Hey, Kev, if you ever get the attention of an owner, a conference call, I'll fly in to talk to him and to help him from a baseball standpoint on how they could fix their entire organization.
Well, we picked one hell of a way to get ourselves into a rub this morning, so I'm going to say thank you to our panel, Rocco, Constantino, Kevin Kernan, Wes Clements. I am your host, Chris Vitali. This has been the BallNine Roundhouse. And come on, just do better, baseball. We'll see you next time.